With the 4th pick in the 2022 NBA Draft, the Sacramento Kings select Keegan Murray from the University of Iowa.
I like his suit.
Keegan Murray becomes the highest drafted Iowa player in the common draft era.
So there we go.
With his
the official announcement on ESPN from Adam Silver. Keegan Murray is now a member of the Sacramento Kings with the 4th pick, and it looks like Jaden Ivey will be landing with the Detroit Pistons. Let's get more reaction with this official pick. We will go to the guy who has spent so much time looking at the draft, doing big boards left and right. I know he likes Keegan Murray, but I'm curious what he has to say about the Kings deciding to take him number 4 overall. Byrant West, your initial reaction to this move by the Kings?
Well, the Kings just locked in one of the most versatile and composed players in this draft class. His production at Iowa, leading scorer, best defender on a Big Ten title team. That's just impossible to ignore. He's a great fit alongside of Fox and Sabonis. He'll be ready from the get-go. He'll get big minutes from day one. If he continues to improve as a shooter, continues to develop his ability to score off the dribble and attack the basket, he certainly could be this 3rd scorer that this team definitely needs. I think he has some clear limitations on both ends of the court, but as much as anybody in this class, he's a lock to be a two-way contributor who really can make this team better in a ton of ways.
Do you feel like the Kings went in the direction with more of the fit, or that they actually didn't believe in what Jaden Ivey could be?
Well, I think it's definitely more of a fit conversation, but at the same time, comparing these two was always difficult because, like, the argument for Keegan isn't just his fit with this team. It's that he is so strong a fit with this team and has so fewer swing skills than Ivey does, swing skills that are kind of limiting when you're building the squad, that it makes some sense for the Kings to look at Jaden Ivey and be like, hey, is Jaden Ivey going to be his best self if he's here next to De'Aaron Fox? Now, you guys all know what I would have done, but I could see Monty McNair looking at Keegan Murray, looking at his improvements as a shooter. Like, he almost shot 40% from 3 last year on really good clip, and thinking, man, as I scale down his offense into more of a secondary role next to Fox and Sabonis, he is definitely a more proven shooter than Jaden Ivey. He's definitely a better defender at this point. The pathway for Keegan to become the best player he can be, Sacramento has the opportunity for him, has the need for him to be so. And clearly he wants to be here. Like, he met with the Kings. He's already met with Sabonis and Fox. He's got to be as locked in as anybody who would want to come to Sacramento. So I'm excited to see where this young man can take us.
So with that, I mean, you sound pretty optimistic about his talent level. And let's be clear, it's not as if it's a reach that the Kings took him. He probably goes 5, or if not soon after that, if the Kings don't pick him. But most observers, including yourself, other people who have followed this closely, believe that Jaden Ivey's got a star ceiling. What do you look at Keegan? Do you think his ceiling, can he reach a star level in your mind?
Well, I never want to risk saying what a smart player can and can't do, because he's already made such improvements last year from his freshman to sophomore year. There's no reason to say that he can't be a fantastic player on this team. Now, I definitely have some concerns. I definitely think there are some limitations to his game on both ends of the court. I struggle to envision how he's going to create offense for himself, particularly as a driver. He did that a lot in Iowa, a lot of perimeter drives at the basket that I don't think are going to be as open for him at this level once he's facing NBA speed. He doesn't have a great first step. Now, he certainly could improve at that. The big swing skill for me, if he works on his pull-up jump shot, if he can become a knockdown off the dribble guy, like, the ceiling, just blow the ceiling off, because he's already a great catch and shoot guy. And a lot of his highlight reels start with off the dribble stuff. It just wasn't at the volume that I would have expected for a guy who needs it as his go-to option at the next level.
You know, the last couple of drafts, the Kings have drafted guards. And are you getting the vibe that maybe they're finally telling De'Aaron Fox that we trust you, we trust where we're going with you and Sabonis on this one?
I don't necessarily know how to take this from Monty McNair. I honestly think that Monty McNair would have taken the guy who he thought was the best player available. So, I mean, there certainly could be something to it if he honestly looked at Jaden Ivey and Keegan Murray and said, hey, they're equal players. You know, at that point, you probably consider fit with your established team. But if I'm going to read anything from the tea leaves of how Monty McNair has handled his job up to this point, I don't think that he overly gets in his head about fit when it comes to the draft. I think he just takes whoever he honestly feels is the best player. And if he's taking Keegan Murray, I'm sure he's going to get up to the podium in a bit and say that.
Yeah, and I mean, look, this is not. I mean, look, it's social media, and you're going to get a mixed response anyway. I don't think, in general, this is going to be a super popular decision. I think you're going to see people go, yeah, he'll fit well, kind of like you said. But I think so many thought if you're at 4, you go with the guy that you believe has the star potential. And hey, maybe we look back at this 3 years from now and go, well, yeah, Ivy really hasn't improved that much. He's athletic, but man, this Keegan guy just knows how to play the right way. But yeah. I mean, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. We do have one update, spoiler. Ben Mathurin will land with the Indiana Pacers. This is after Jay and Ivy went 5 to the Detroit Pistons. I love Mathurin. He's going to end up at 6. But our focus right now is on what the Kings just did. Keegan Murray, the number 4 pick by the Sacramento Kings. Yeah, I'm very curious. And look, no GM's going to go up and be like, yeah, I don't think Monty McNair is going to say, yeah, we thought Jane was the best player available, but we went with fit. I think he's going to go up there and say that Keegan was, in his mind, in his front office's view, the best player available.
Yeah, I'd certainly expect that. And before anybody gets too up in their heads about this pick, Keegan Murray is a great player. Like, we're not talking about the Kings suddenly drafting somebody way down in the teens.
Like Papagiannis.
Yeah, no, this ain't no Papagiannis. This isn't even Marvin Bagley. Keegan Murray was next on my board after Jaden Ivey. He's a really good two-way player. He's going to make this team better from day one. So it will not take him very long, if at all, to become one of the fan favorites here in Sacramento. He is a composed, calm player. He goes out there and he does his work, and he does it on both ends of the court. For a guy who averaged 23.5 points for Iowa last year, was pretty much the only go-to scorer that they had. You don't see many guys who go out there and give that level of defensive effort. It just doesn't happen that often. And, 1.9 blocks and 1.5 steals per game, that indicates he was really working his butt off on defense.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think he's going to be as effective a defender at the next level, but once again, I don't want to put any limitations on a smart player figuring out the best he can be.
What are your questions about him defensively at the next level? Like, what are some of your concerns with him?
It's not so much instinct. It's really just, does he have the foot speed to handle smaller wings, the traditional small forwards at this level? Because he was pretty good at staying with some guys, but there were times where he definitely got blown by. And not to the level that some of the other guys that the Kings could have taken at this spot were, but I think that it's really easy to go look at some of his defensive highlights, look at those numbers that I just shared, and think, boy, the Kings just got one of the best defenders in this class. I think he's a good defender. I don't think he's going to come in here and fix this defense from the first day. But the most important thing is that that's Mike Brown's job. Mike Brown has to get the rest of this team locked in on defense. He has to get the best out of De'Aaron Fox on defense, Domantas Sabonis on defense. Keegan Murray's going to help that cause.
And I feel like they're obviously just seeing what you're seeing on social media and through chat and everybody, being like, no, how could this happen? It was Jaden Ivey. I think everyone's perspective of when you have a draft pick, especially when you're in the lottery almost every year, that it needs to be this star player. And I feel like because of what people are saying, what Jaden Ivey's potential could be, that scares a lot of Kings fans. Like, well, Keegan Murray, people aren't saying that same star potential, but I don't think people are understanding the value of a consistent, really solid player as well.
Yeah, absolutely. If there's anything that the Sacramento Kings need, it's consistency. It's somebody who's going to come and give it every day. Like there isn't a Sacramento King last year, except for Sabonis after he got here, that came up and showed up every single night. That was who Keegan Murray was. And just to play devil's advocate, Lord knows, I was a Jaden Ivey fan. He was the one I was hoping they were going to take, but he's not the safest guy. Like he's not as good a shooter as Keegan Murray. He's nowhere near as good a defender as Keegan Murray. Now, I still probably I absolutely would have taken him over Keegan Murray and just figured out the positional complexities later. But it's not a absolute. This ain't anywhere near 2018. Not even close.
Where do you think about his fit next to Sabonis? Because he did like to do some stuff in the post. Obviously, Sabonis, you know what he does. How does he fit with Sabonis? And the Kings obviously did need help at that 4 spot.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's a good fit next to Sabonis. Gives them somewhat of a more rangy 4. And he is a pretty good weak side rim protector. I think that gets overstated a little bit. If you just look at the numbers, like 1.9 blocks a game might indicate that he's going to come in here and change their rim protection needs from the get-go. I don't think that's the case. I think he's going to be a good rim protector, but like I said, he's going to help this team on defense. I just don't think that the Kings suddenly drafted a guy who's going to go out there and suddenly be like, okay, you're our LeBron stopper. Go get him.
I guess, and this obviously with this pick, you would assume that John Collins is not happening now, right? So now, as it stands, you've got Fox, you've got Keegan Murray, who I'd assume can start from day one. Barnes is still on the roster, Sabonis. So the 4 spot's been filled. And now it's like, how do you find some more shooting?
Yeah, well, Keegan Murray is a good step
Yeah.
forward in getting great shooting. I mean, like 39.8% from 3 last year on over 5 attempts per game. He's a really good shooter, but I agree with you. The priority of this team needs to be to continue adding shooting and, two-way players. So we don't know how long Harrison Barnes is for this team. We don't know who's going to be starting at shooting guard next year. It's still a priority for the Sacramento Kings that they go out and get more wing talent.
Is Harrison Barnes someone, though, that now you would look at and go, should we look at signing him, re-signing him, and look at his future with the Sacramento Kings?
I don't necessarily think that. I wouldn't be upset with it. My complexity here is that Keegan and Harrison probably are both best defending the same kind of player. So the redundancy's there a little bit, but on offense, like you're just adding 2 more. You just have 2 smart guys, 2 great shooters, 2 good rebounders for their size. And if eventually, Keegan Murray clearly supplants Harrison Barnes as the guy who needs to start, and I mean, not just start, but thrive next to Sabonis, then yeah, Harrison Barnes can be shopped, but he's expiring next year. So I don't necessarily know that changes anything for Monty's calculus. He was already going to have to figure out what to do with Barnes.
And one more thing before we go to the chat for a little bit. One person to chat, I've seen this a couple of times. Can Keegan play the 3? My mind, I look at him more as a 4. How do you view him?
I definitely think he's a 4 who can moonlight at the 3 a little bit. I think the foot speed on defense is what I'm a little bit concerned about. On offense, like you can do whatever you want. It just comes down to who are you going to defend at the next level? And I wouldn't want to see either Harrison Barnes or Keegan Murray going out there and guarding the most quick small forwards out there. That's my only concern.
Yeah, that would get ugly at times. Unless Mike Brown puts together some fantastic defensive philosophy for this squad, for this roster, and how it is right now going into this season. So we'll just have to see.